I'm Allendale's chief meteorologist Ryan Martin with a look at your midday weather update. High pressure has made a few inroads to the east, pushing across parts of eastern Iowa into Wisconsin. We've got a high all the way down, actually along the Arkansas-Louisiana border. So you can see this high still has a pretty good reach, pretty good stretch on it, going all the way down into the deep south. Winds are going south on the backside of the high. We're starting to see that work across Iowa. Not seeing it work in as fast over the central and eastern Corn Belt. Looks like those days are going to be tomorrow, Friday, for the central and eastern Corn Belt. Stationary front runs from a low in southeastern Montana all the way down into south central Kansas. Don't think that front does anything but demark a wind shift line, but looking at some plumes of moisture coming out of that low in Montana back off to the west and south, this will be the seed of what develops into a nice thunderstorm cluster that eventually works its way into the western Corn Belt a little later this week. Looking for those thunderstorms to start to fire off late tomorrow afternoon over portions of eastern Nebraska, eastern South Dakota. They kind of condense down into that clump that moves through Iowa. Right now, as we continue to look at things, we stand by our forecast changes this morning that take precipitation out of Missouri, put it into Wisconsin. Looks to me like the heavy rains are going to move across Iowa, southern Minnesota. I'm actually going to bump my rainfall totals up a little bit. I think we can easily see 1 to 2 inches in Iowa and maybe slightly more as you get over into parts of Wisconsin. I still think half an inch or less, although I wouldn't rule out a 3/4 inch total. Northern counties of Illinois might see something. It's going to be very hit and miss, and then we'll see action continue through Friday and into early Saturday morning across Michigan. But that's it. The rest of the Corn Belt doesn't see anything. Temperatures warm to normal and slightly above normal levels this weekend. Then next week we will be fully above normal pretty much all week long. And you know what? Next week with the warm air in play, I don't think we see a lot of precipitation potential either. At this point, I'm going to keep an eye on maybe a midweek setup of moisture trying to meander out of the Great Lakes. It's not great. It really looks like the stream pattern for the moisture next week is from northern parts of North Dakota through the Canadian provinces. Watching low pressure form in the central plains as we move through the later part of next week, Thursday, Friday. I think some of that eventually will try and gather some strength and pick some moisture up. But I'll also say this. I think we could end up seeing very little moisture until we get into the Labor Day weekend. Models backed off dramatically earlier today. Moisture in the 5th and 6th time frame. There's still a system for the 8th. I'm not ready to completely give up on that 5th and 6th window yet, although I'm going to curtail things for both systems combined. I think we can see maybe upwards of half to 1 inches of rain out of the two systems combined, the 5th and 6th and then the 8th. But coverage may only be about 60%. We'll see. It makes sense to maybe curtail that first system just a little bit. Drier air means it would take a lot more moisture to get something good going over most of the Corn Belt. Considering we're just getting done with a mostly dry period here, by that time, maybe the system just isn't going to have the stones that it needs to roll on. Now, the extended forecast window also shows that we have a deep trough digging in over the western part of the country, propagating eastward ever so slowly. That keeps an upper level ridge with good above normal temperatures in over the rest of the country, probably toward mid-month. But if that trough can hold together, it also means we would cool down and maybe see a little bit more precipitation action at some point later in September. We're not going to jump off the deep end and call for imminent rains, but it should be interesting after a dry start to the month to see if we follow it up with better rainfall potential the second half. That's the way things are stacking up. If you've got any questions on the weather, give us a call at Allendale. I'm Chief Meteorologist Ryan Martin.